I'm Jason Feldman. This is another playbook. I don't even know what number this is. I think it's number 7 in this sales process for a winning P&C insurance agency. We are now on the third part of the sales script, and I'm excited about this part. There's a lot to this, and I wish I could just write it for you and say, hey, just say this. But since every state's different, this is where it gets a little complicated. But I'm going to give you the frameworks to follow to write the perfect sales script. And this is it.
Insurance dudes are on a mission to escape being handcuffed by our agencies.
How? By uncovering the secrets to creating a predictable, consistent, and profitable agency sales machine.
I am Craig Pretzinger.
I am Jason Feldman.
We are agents.
We are insurance dudes.
So we talked about the opener, all the ways to keep the people on the phone, because if you're investing in the leads, you want the biggest shot for your team to actually get the quote out of the lead so you can get the sale, right? And then we talked about the connection. And then this is really the sales part of the whole selling presentation, right? Now we're gonna get into the proposal. And this part's so important because this is where you can sound like the doctor of insurance, or you can sound like some clown off the street. I never realized how important this was until I started trying to hire salespeople. And I told you, I didn't come into this industry knowing what the heck I was doing. I mean, I was literally bartending months before taking over this insurance agency. So I knew people in general, but I knew nothing about hand-to-hand combat and sales. So this was a bit foreign to me. But when I started hiring sales agents, I was shocked by what I found. As I started interviewing sales agents, I started asking them, hey, okay, here's some coverages. What's your sales pitch? And they would be all over the map. I mean, it was in order. Like they were selling, primarily it was auto, right? I would ask them, here are the auto coverages, sell me this. And they would be all over the place. These are people that have been in the industry for 5, 10, 15 years, and their sales process, there wasn't one. It was all over the map. They would start here and all over the place. It was the worst thing ever. And I'm like, dude, if you're doing this every single day for 15 years and you sound like you've never done this before, what's really going on? That is when I realized having this kind of process and having your own sales process is so important. Don't leave it up to other people. Don't leave the fate of you and your agency up to other people's experience. That is crazy to me. So let's get into the proposal. We want to sound like the doctor of insurance. So those people were all over the place. We ended up really developing this, and we got to a point where we wouldn't hire anybody that had experience in other agencies because it was really hard to untrain them and to get them to sound not like a salesperson and not be all over the map and actually follow a process. So anyways, we're going to get to the proposal. We want to kind of set this part up, right? So a few things that we're going to ask them is things like, well, we can ask them. We've omitted some of this stuff before and then brought it back in, but like something like, how did you come up with your coverages? Like just ask them. Did you come up with those? Your agent did? Oh, okay. Like you kind of almost want them to second guess. How did you come up with that? If your guy came up with that, that's kind of, I would never have done that. You don't want to say that, but like that's the kind of thought you want to get them to have. Okay, how did you come up with those coverages? When was the last time you reviewed these coverages with your agent? And most people haven't, right? And that's what we kind of want to get to. We always want to ask questions where it's like, we kind of know the answer so we can kind of direct the conversation in the right direction. And so even if they say, oh, I just reviewed it with them. Oh, okay, interesting. And then I would go on to the next one. And then you could say, I'm concerned about your coverages. And you kind of just want them to guess a little bit more and basically act like their carrier is like a girlfriend or a boyfriend that's been cheating on them. You want to kind of position them like that, right? Because a lot of times, a lot of the reasons why people are asking for quotes or changing companies, it's not because it's fun. It's not because this is way better than hanging out with their daughter, right? Because something happened. So you want to kind of like knife in them. You kind of want to twist the knife a little bit and be like, dude, that sucks. Like we wouldn't do that. And if we can set up the proposal before we get into it, like that, we'll be able to make a bigger impact. So what are we going to do? We are going to get into the what, how story tie down example. And this is the way we like to approach the coverages. The what. And the reason why we came up with this method is because a lot of times agents talk in the babbly lingo of coverages, kind of like how it is on the policy, like 1530. This is 1537. To the normal person, they're like, I don't care. I don't know what you're talking about. Right? But they're never going to say that. They're just going to be like, oh, okay. And it doesn't mean anything to them. So we want to make this mean something to them. So we have to talk into a lower level. We have to talk into like kind of like a third grade level. I think that they said like most of the presidents over the last, 20 years spoke at like a fifth grade level or something like that, the ones that won. And it's because when you're talking a lot about something that might be complicated, it's going to be long. You want people to follow along. And dude, I have ADHD. So me following along ain't going to happen unless it's simple. And so we want to keep this stuff simple. Again, we're trying to do what would be best for the masses, not what's best for you. Who cares? We're not trying to give a policy to you. We're trying to give it to the person that we're speaking to. Since everybody's so different, we want to do what will give us the best chance of selling the policy like we talked about before. So what we're going to do is we're going to start getting into these coverages, and we're going to talk about what is the coverage. Right? So bodily injury, 1530. That's what this is. And so you're going to say this pays out to this and this event. And that's what it is. And so then you're going to say how this works is, and you're going to give them a story. Let's say you and your daughter, we know her name by there. Let's say Sally. Sally, get into a car accident. She's right there in the back seat, right? In her car seat, because you said she's 3. She's in her car seat back there. And we get into this car accident and boom, this thing happens and she, God forbid, but like she smashes her face on the back of the car and has to go to the hospital, right? We want to kind of paint this story. So if we go to the what, and then we go to the how, and we do the how this works is, we're going to we're going to help them paint the story for them so that they don't have to come up with an image to understand, that we're going to paint the image so that they understand. And we're going to tell this story about what happened, how this works, the story. Let's say this happens, and then we're going to get into the tie down, because we've just talked a lot at this point, just like I have just talked a lot. And if somebody's just talking at you, you're going to tune out. Right? So at this point, we're going to want to do a tie down. If this happens, you would only be covered for blank amount. Who do you think would have to pay the rest of that? You want them to answer. You want to give them to buy back into the conversation, to kind of pull them in, and then they can answer, right? Who do you think is going to pay the rest? I don't know. It's you that's going to have to pay it. If it's a benefit, then you can say, doesn't that sound awesome? Isn't that great? You want to elicit something from them. And you usually want, if you're going to use a tie down where it's like a coverage or a benefit that sounds awesome, you're going to want to go into the positive. You want them to start saying yeses. You want to get them kind of nodding like, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that fantastic? Don't you think your family deserves that, right? You want them to start saying, yeah, my family does deserve that. Especially since we're building this proposal and we're building it in the way that we're going to ask them to purchase the policy at the end, right? We're actually going to ask them to buy. Now, when I say that, you might be thinking like, oh, well, everybody asks them to buy. No, most agents don't. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds of agencies. You would be shocked. And most agency owners say, yeah, my agents do ask for it. But then we find out they don't. Like, they need to ask for the sale. Why wait? Listen, this is the thing. When it comes to insurance sales, I've seen how much time is wasted on both ends and these phone calls back and forth and all this stuff. It does not bode well for either party to wait on this stuff. It doesn't matter. Like, you're going to save them so much time by just asking get them to commit right there. Why not? So that's the what, how, story, tie down method. So we do that for each single coverage. And then when we get to the end of this, we want to build the close. So we've already talked about all these different coverages. Isn't that great? Isn't that awesome? We're building these coverages. Now we want to build the close. So with your new policy, you're getting 5 times the amount of bodily injury. You're getting $20,000 extra of coverage here. You're getting the free windshield crack repair. And then remember, when you say that, you want to put the story, free windshield crack repair, where let's say you're working at McDonald's, we're actually going to come out and we're going to fix that window while you're at work. Whatever the benefits may be, really build those. And today it's only going to be this price. All I need is one technique that works really well is asking, what bank do you bank with? Most people, because it's kind of non-threatening at that point, so you tell them the price, what bank do you work with? And they'll say like Wells Fargo. Oh, that's one of our preferred banks. I actually have the routing number right here. What's your account number? Let's get this thing started. And then you can start getting into the objection handling, because I'm sure you're going to get there. And that's objection handling. We call it getting out of the doghouse. That's the next phase of this. But we really want, at this point, we want to build all of the coverages the best we can. Then we want to stack that close like this crescendo. Think of like an infomercial used to do, right? They would start telling you all these pieces and they would really start building, and it's only this. And let's get this thing started. This is the payment. But build it that way so that when you give that price and you say either the banking statement or you just ask for the close or whatever you may be, that there's really not much more to say on your behalf. You've already created the most desirable policy that you could with what you've been given, right? So that's where you want to build it all, ask for the price. And then we can get into the objection handling. We're going to do this on the next call. I think you have a lot to think about. Maybe build those coverages after this call. The what, how, story, tie down method to build it. And then the build, the stack, the build, close. And then going into that definitive asking for the sales section. And that's it. That's it on the proposal. We'll get into objection handling tomorrow. And this has been a playbook right out of Jason's playbook. That's right.